is beyond a pleasure to be joined by one of the greatest men to pull on a Kiwis jersey. In fact, a player of the century for New Zealand Rugby League in Mark Graham. Mark, great to see you. How's life in Queensland, mate?
Yeah, very good. Thanks, Sam. Nice to be here talking to you. It's actually it's a little bit cooler today than it has been, and I've played all right in golf this morning, so it's a happy occasion for me.
No, I've got to take those when they come back. They got to take those. Now, besides wanting to catch up with an icon of the game, we've got a very special reason too, with the release of SHARKO, a documentary made by your son, Luke Graham, on you and the relationship that he has with you. He's playing at the Dock Edge Festival here in New Zealand, and there'll be dates throughout Christchurch, Auckland, Wellington, as well as online. What, Mark, I've had the privilege of speaking to you a few times. You're not exactly massive on self-promotion. What's it like to know there's a movie about you that people are going to pay good money to go see?
Yeah, it's kind of different. I mean, it's as you said, it's not something that I would have sort of pumped for. But Luke was, in his budding film career, he wanted to do it, and so obviously as a father, you like to see your children go good. So anything I could do to help that, and yeah, it's sort of transpired, I suppose.
How, obviously, you've been, done plenty of chats about your career before and got up on stage and had a yarn about the old days and that type of thing. What's it like sitting down in that environment, not just in that environment, but with your son asking the questions?
Different, obviously. He was very good at what he did, and it's been a long time since I played footy, obviously, Sam. So in my opinion, I don't know if it really counts too much, but we talked about the old days and different things, and a lot of things are still the same. Respect is still respect, and being good and kind and nice is still valued traits, I believe. So yeah, it wasn't. I enjoyed it. I've got to say, it was good.
Listen, I enjoyed it too. I thought SHARKO was a great watch, and this sounds like there's as corny a movie review line as you can throw, but literally one of those ones where I laughed and I cried along the way too, Mark. This isn't a story about footy purely, is it? The relationship between you and Luke comes to the fore quite early, and there's a lot of heavy stuff to take in along the way, Mark. For those who don't know your story, it's an eye opener, and for those who have followed you closely, it's a pretty emotional journey along the way too.
Yeah, I think, Sam, everyone's got that the same, mate. You get to my age, you got some highs and lows in your life, and if you haven't, you haven't most probably lived as you should have. But just the way things is, life is not always as good as most probably as you'd like it to be. But that's life.
You made a great line early on in the movie. You say it's like life is like 80 minutes where, there's some great ups and downs, but a lot of it's spent in a fair bit of pain as well. As you get a chance to sit back and reflect on a career in a scenario like that, what does your career mean to you and the time you spend playing, not just for the Kiwis, but rugby league in a professional context or semi-professional, however you want to view it, around the globe?
Oh, I don't know. I think I've been very, very lucky, mate. I think I did a podcast or something with someone the other day, and I mentioned to them that I've won some wonderful awards, and I've been honoured remarkably. But a lot of those rewards and honours, I got in the last 30 years after I finished playing. So it's what it is. I learned a lot from playing with very good people, being coached by good people, playing with good people, playing against very good footy players, and hopefully I've been able to take that on in my personal life.
What's it like watching, it's not just talking about yourself and hearing from Luke, we'll get to Luke in a second, but seeing, you've got Wally Lewis on there, Blocker Roach, the great Hugh McGahn, Graham Lowe, of course, you're very tight with. What's it like for you, who again, a humble bloke who doesn't like to see his own trumpet tooted too loudly? What's it like watching that as an experience and seeing these guys, especially a guy like Wally, who I imagine until roughly sometime after 1990 wouldn't have had one nice word to say about you beforehand?
Look, yeah, I mean, it's nice that they gave up their time, and if they had said something not so nice, Luke would have cut it out anyway. So, but it was like, he's a great footy player. Blockers the same. To have people of that ilk, as you mentioned, saying nice things about you. It's very. Well, I suppose I'm very pleased with it, mate. Yeah.
What's it like seeing your career through the lens of your son?
Different because as I said before, Sam, you only see really the good parts. You don't see the parts where you're busted and broken, and you've tried but you didn't get the result that you wanted. Very much like my golf, in fact. You always think you're going to go good, but you don't. But it's that's just life, mate. It's just I remember saying one stage, you spend a lot of time in the gutter, and you get up often, but you get put back down in your place every now and again too. So, it's just a matter of you just got to keep getting up, mate. That's life, isn't it?
Absolutely. And as I mentioned, this is a father-son story, and it's not all father-son relationships have love, but there's always some complication to it, right? It's parenting and being a son. Neither of those aspects in life is particularly easy. Certainly, when your dad's a bloke you can't walk down the street with without somebody wanting his attention or pointing along the way. So, Luke's perspective is a really intriguing one for those of us who think, geez, these sports stars must have everything.
Yeah, well, I hadn't really thought about it like that, I got to say, until Luke started doing this, and I'd like to think it was he had a good time doing it and being with son, but it's one of them things, Sam. Like him, are you a father?
Yep, I've got 3 kids.
Yeah, exactly right, mate. So you didn't go to school and learn how to do that, did you? You just woke up one morning, you're a father, and as Lucas, he woke up one morning, he was my son. So it's just you learn as you go, and you try and keep your perspective and try and teach your kids the good things and honourable things and the things that will hopefully help them in life. So yeah.
For those who didn't live through the 80s, a lot of younger rugby league fans as well, it's kind of a learning opportunity for them to take that in as well, in a kind of a medium that they're better used to taking in than necessarily falling down old YouTube wormholes watching old tests. Where rugby league was for New Zealand, in particular the Kiwis team, through the 80s to 90s, everyone who is passionate about the game now can recognise them as formative years. What was it like being in those formative years where you were still needing to get to the point of proving yourself and proving the worth of the Kiwis, not just to the New Zealand public, but to the opposition?
Yeah, it was a long, hard road, I think you'd say. We always had really good, talented footy players. We had, I don't know if we believed in ourselves as we should. In sort of the mid-'80s, we started to. We had a lot of guys that were very good players. They were playing, semi-professional, be it in Australia or in England. And we had a bit of confidence about ourselves. We had a great coach in Graham Lowe. When things started to happen, I mean, when I played in Auckland for Otahu, in '75, I started with them as a 19-year-old kid. We in the Auckland Rugby League competition, they used to ask us, a Sydney side every year, to come over and play at the end of the following year. And we played West one year in the mid-'70s, and we played Cronulla, and we lost to West by a couple of points. And then we played Cronulla in '78 when they just lost the grand final to Manly, I believe, and we beat them the week after they lost to the grand final. So, we had plenty of good footy players around. It was just a matter of fact of turning up every Saturday and doing it.
Yeah, I remember being at Carlisle Park, Mark, and watching some of the games, mainly for me in the early '90 period, where the Auckland team would take on part of the teams from the Winfield Cup come over. Distinctly remember watching Auckland versus Manly. Man, those were competitive games back then as well. And this is the period where we're screaming out for the Warriors to come along, right? And those steps laid in the '80s were absolutely crucial. The game now is different, right? Real different. As you said in the documentary, and you don't mind telling the story before, there were games you went out there with the intent of literally, punching a bloke and hurting him, right? That was part of that was the part of the game as it was then. Now it's frowned upon to say that you're looking to hurt them and the like. The game's different in a lot of ways. How do you view the game now Does it still feel like the game you played?
Good question, actually, Sam. Well, I was talking about with some of the old golfing mates this this morning, actually, when we were having a drink after the game, and we were saying how things are very different. You know, like how we played some nights for Auckland. We'd work till 5 o'clock that night, and then have a feed and jump in the car and go to Carlow Park and change and go and play Australia, and then get on the drink and then get back and get up in the morning at 6 o'clock and go back to work, and that was just all part and parcel of it, you know. And for next to no money too, you know, we'd be lucky to make $50 out of that, but it was just the honour and the experience of being able to do it. So I think that and I'm really pleased. I'm not jealous that these guys are making huge money and good money, because they deserve it. They put their bodies on the line, and they'll no doubt get to a point where, like you have to go and get operated on every now and again because of the things that have happened to you. But the game has changed hugely. You know, it was the fact that you can have the honour of having 300 NRL games. Yeah. And play for 20 minutes, have 20 minutes off, have a halftime break, have 20 minutes off, and then come back and play the last 20 minutes and get awarded not only a whole game, but you get paid for the whole game. Shit, when I first went to Brisbane, we used to get paid by the minute. And if you got
seriously by the minute,
yeah. If you got cleaned up in the first couple of minutes, you'd owe the club. I remember we played at Lang Park, and we won the game, but I only lasted about 15 minutes. I had 20 stitches put in me, and I needed 20 stitches, and they were $10 a stitch. So I was out of pocket that week. So that's just how it was, mate.
Yeah, that's like the old fantasy coaching these days, but in real life, where you really monitor a player's minutes really closely. Then, so it also that's the time where a bench was there to be used upon requirement, right, rather than strategically.
Yes.
If you're 1 to 13, you're playing 80 minutes unless you get busted in some way, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, and so that's obviously a little different. I mean, I like watching the game. I like watching the skill factor in the game, and I think the game's obviously been coached at a very high level, and the players are. I think there was a time where we were players, and then we became athletes, and these are the athletes, and we might have been players.
Listen, I think that you straddle that bridge quite comfortably in there, actually, in those early 80s. I think that's where it kind of started, the mid 80s in particular. As you look towards the modern game, they've got the money, right? Right now, the players get the money, they get the time to train, all that kind of stuff, get a chance to set themselves up for life. But Mark, I say this respectfully, I wonder how you'd go in the modern game as far as the lifestyle goes. You don't strike me as the kind of bloke that are particularly comfortable training for however many hours a day, then going and having a whole lot of spare time up your sleeve, as well as the ability. I mean, some of the great stories you've told about going out for a drink as part of the team. I think of one stint with the North Sydney Bears and a pub owner comes to mind along the way.
Yeah.
That's not stuff you get away with today. Would you swap all the pros that come with being an athlete, as you mentioned today, for what you had then? Would you swap eras if you had the chance?
No way. No, I had a great time. I enjoyed everything I did. It was wonderful. We had great friends that I still speak to today. I was down the Gold Coast last weekend, and I made sure I ran into Sammy Stewart and Gary Walker, who I played with in the 1980 Grand Final within North Brisbane. And we had a great time. We had a drink together. The wives were there. It was nice to reminisce about old times. In fact, those guys still train that hard that both of them are having heart. Is it ablations, Jack?
Yes.
Heart ablations, where their heart gets out of rhythm because they're that used to training hard that they'll be sitting there watching TV and they'll have 200 beats a minute. So then they have to really focus on calming down because they've overtrained that often and put themselves in that much oxygen jet over their life. They can throw their hearts off rhythm, and that's just how they do it. Yeah, they were saying to me, "You're going to be here tomorrow morning," and I said, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to be here." They said, "Come for a swim. We're going to swim from North Billy to Surfers Paradise." I said, "Are you insane? What would you do that for?" And they said, "We do that all the time." I said, "No, I'm not doing it." It's simple as that. But on the old days, that's what you used to do. You just go out and train and train and train. That was what you did.
Jesus. Overtraining is nothing I've ever accused of, Mark. So that sounds particularly foreign to me. As
Yes.
we kind of look at that era of players now, you say watch closely. Do you look at an era, any of the players now, and go, geez, they would have looked great in our teams in the 80s. If only I had so and so with us in the 88 World Cup final, all that type of thing. Anyone that really grabs your eye as being old school in the current era?
Good question. If you had to give me some time to think about that one, Sam. But
the name that jumps off for me, Mark, is Tohu Harris. Yeah. Every time I see Tohu, yes. I think I could see him lining up next to you and Hugh in a back row any day from back in that era.
Yeah, he's a very fine player, very very fine player. I'm a big fan of some of the some of the number nines around. Because look, I suppose if I was coaching footy now, the best player. The bloke will be paying all the money for would be the number 9 because he's the first bloke who makes decisions with the football, and if he makes the right ones, you're half a chance of going ahead. So the teams with the best number 9s generally go pretty good.
As far as the Kiwis go, I mean, as we've talked about that, you're at that stage where you earned that respect against Australia. The last Kiwis test played was 30-0 to New Zealand. What does a Kiwi test and what does a Kiwi win now mean to you? When there's still, everyone's valuable, right? But you bled for this country. That jersey meant everything to you as a player. What does it mean to you now?
Oh, the same, But I think Sam, we've all got to remember that the week before they won 30-0, they got beat pretty comfortably too, and they played the same side. So, as me as a supporter, as a fellow Kiwi, as an ex-Test captain, as a captain of the Kiwis and toured in 80 and 85 to Great Britain and France, I wonder why there's such a big disparity. I mean, they all know how to play. Look, let's face it. Pretty much anyone can coach the Kiwis. They're going to coach because the hardest work you do at a representative level is picking the team because they all know how to play. They all play for a living. I think now there's something like, and I think it's above this, but it's about 50% of the top 30, of the top 17 NRL guys. They've got top 30, and within that top 30, there's 50% of them have got Kiwi passports, maybe more, I'd say. So, why can't we win most? And if we get big, just get big by a couple. You know what I mean? Why is that so hard to believe? We've got as many Kiwis playing the game as we have Australians. So why can't we be that competitive all the time? That's what I say. And I hope they are, and I'll support them regardless whether they are or not. But I think it's a like 30-0 was fantastic, and don't get me wrong, I was over the moon. But the week before that I wasn't over the moon. So
they hurt when you watch those. I'm a fan, right? And I was, I was upset about it, but I was thinking, right, well, I still got faith to the final, that type of thing. But for you, if every loss as a player must have hurt, does every loss as a former player, 35 years, wherever it is down the line now, still hurt?
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Sometimes things happen. You get a bad bounce, you get a bad refereeing decision. That's okay. I think the big thing, something that I've sort of always thought about is the way I'd like to have thought about running my life and my career and stuff like that is that you put your best foot forward all the time. And sometimes you're going to get smacked up. You're going to put your best foot forward, and someone's going to hit it with an axe and chop it off. But other times, you're going to get what you want. So as long as you're prepared to give of your all, you haven't lost. You've given the best that you could. So there's one of the I was going to give the speech one time, and they asked me to do some like a big time speech. So I said yeah. So I took a lot of notes on what they wanted, and I found TED Talks, and I found John Walton. He was a basketball coach in the early 40s at LA, and he's got some wonderful statements on that very fact of giving your all. So it's actually worth watching and worth listening to. So I'd recommend all your listeners have a listen to that. That's sort of the way I felt about things.
Yeah, well, sounds incredible. Speaking of big speeches, if I remember right, did you give out the jerseys or have a speak to the players the night before the 2008 Rugby League World Cup final, the day New Zealand became world champions in rugby league? And that, I mean,
Yeah,
I remember speaking to you on the day of the game. We were both fizzed up like a can of Coke, ready to go. It was an exciting moment, and it proved to be. But yeah,
yeah.
those type of moments where your mana is called upon to help boost the Kiwis. What are those moments like?
Yeah, wonderful. I mean, I've been had that special honour twice, and both times they've gone out and won, which I've been very pleased with.
Well,
Yeah,
then,
wonderful. Sorry.
I'll make sure Stacey knows about it.
Um, yeah, yeah, obviously the talk hopefully helped, but they were well coached and very good footy players, and not a lot of things went against them that day. So yeah, all those sort of things play on your mind, and I'm just very pleased I was able to maybe help out in some way, shape, or form. They're most probably going to win anyway, weren't they?
Oh, I think they'll run through brick walls that day. I think it was felt written in the stars. Mark, for
Yeah,
you, you talk about your career, and there's plenty of good moments, but plenty of pain too, and nothing came easy for you, right? The documentary really drives that home. But I want to talk to you about briefly about the two. You managed to get the two potentially toughest years in Warriors history to coach. Maybe COVID apart, perhaps. Let's be fair,
yeah.
but as far as the tumultuous situation that the Warriors were in when you became coach for 99, 2000, how do you look back at your time at Mount Smart as coach?
Oh, yeah. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the players. I think in that period of time we had a lot of injuries. Stacey was out for quite some time in the last year of my contract. So was our 5'8" and captain at that stage, John Simons. But the positive thing is I brought about nine blokes on. Like all these young fellas came up through the grade, came up and played first grade, and if you can, and we paid the price because all these young guys were playing footy, but they got better and better and better. And within a couple of years, I think 2 years after I left, most of them were playing first grade, and they were playing in the grand final. So at some stage, you got to bite the bullet and do that. Like if your side's getting beat and you got wingers or people worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you got one that's athletically as good, well, you're going to give the athletically as good one, and you're going to move the other fella on so that you've got some money to buy some decent players, and that's just how it works. But
Oh,
we were lucky enough. Sorry.
say, and you're going to be in a situation where you're going to be. Those are tough calls to make, Mark, and
Yeah.
you've been one to worry about someone's reputation at any stage in your life. So it was for you. It was never about, well, he's the highest paid or he puts bums on seats, so I've got to put him in the team.
No. I was never. And I made a point very early on that I never wanted to know what anyone was getting paid because I didn't want that to influence my decision. I was just one of the best players on the park.
Yeah, and difficult years, and of course, the club literally needed to be reborn off the back of 2000. But as you say, that was a period that was still a crucial part of the building block for the club. So the Warriors still a special club for you.
Oh yeah, and look, I'm a big fan of the Warriors. But I did work with the Cowboys, North Sydney, Manly, and then obviously the Warriors. I was assistant for 7 years before I took the Warriors job on, so I had some idea of what was expected, and all the statistics and data and all the what would you say, all the tests that you needed to do to be a top line footballer. I had all them. So we would get. There's a couple of kids that we got at the Warriors when I was there that were far better than Australian rated players. And the first time they did the test, they were better. I just can't. I remember saying to one of the coaches, "Are you sure you did that right?" And he went, "Yeah." So I said, "Mate, you better come back tomorrow to the young fellow and do that again if you wouldn't mind." So he came back and he bettered it again, and that was like one of the top tests that you could do, and it was just no problems. So athletically, I think the Warriors are gifted. I think it's a matter of time really before they win the comp, and I just hope that I'm around to see it. That's all.
I'm confident. I'm confident with that one, Mark. I am. I think there's something special brewing within the confines of those walls. We tell you. Just before we let you go, mate, I'm always grateful for your time. If we come back to Sharko and what that kind of means, it's not that, being the New Zealand Rugby League Player of the Year and the NRL Hall of Fame, all this jazz, you're already immortalised in the eyes of many, but this becomes something that's there. I don't know what legacy specifically means with you, but this is something that can be viewed by anyone down the line and becomes a crucial chapter in New Zealand Rugby League history. It's been done on a family front first, and I think it's very special that it has. But on the league front, this is something that can open up the eyes to, much like you would have learned about those who came before you when you were younger. So it's a cool piece of history to have.
Yeah, exactly right, Sam. I was really I've been very fortunate in that, as I said, lots of nice things have been said about me, and I was fortunate enough to play with some really good footy players. But one of the things that sort of stuck out from Luke's perspective, and he was always telling me about it, is how badly archived the sport is, and yeah, if at all archived. I've been fortunate enough to recently do a couple of podcasts with people from New Zealand, and often wondered why the New Zealand Rugby League or the Auckland Rugby League don't do these things, so they can at least have some of the stories of the old days on tape, or whatever, so that people can listen and look at what used to happen. Like, I think this show that we're talking about with Luke, he came to New Zealand for a anniversary of 1977 Auckland side that we beat England, Australia, and France on 3 Wednesday nights in a row in 1977 at Carwell Park. And I was saying, and Luke came along and he met all the guys, and I said, mate, there's a great story, and it's a fantasy, it's a Disney tale, we used to train we'd look in the paper on the Herald on Monday morning and see if we were selected. If we were selected, we went to there's in Green Lane there, not far from the racing, trotting track. There's a park there, and we used to train there on a Monday night. But there was only one light there, so the training session would be pretty short. So then on Wednesday we'd turn up after we'd worked all day and play, and we went pretty good in three Wednesdays in a row. But also the fact is we trained on Tuesday night with our club, and after the Wednesday we went training on Thursday night with our club, and then we played for our club on the weekend, then went back to work, and then played for Auckland on the Wednesday. And that was virtually for no money. That was just how it was, and it wasn't just me; it was everybody of that era, and that was just how the game was. And I'm pleased to see that these guys nowadays are going good and earning lots of money. I'd like to think that some of their life experiences from when they finish playing football may be a bit different from when they play football. They'll have to learn a few things in life, but I wish them all the best, and hopefully I've done a little bit to make their trade or their work highly paid.
Yeah, well, certainly lay the mark for the modern day athletes to be able to do what they do. And from the fans, mate, as always, as I say every time, thanks for everything you've done for the great game of rugby league. And always a pleasure to catch up, mate. For everyone interested, get out and see Sharko. It's at the Dock Edge Film Festival. We get it and enjoy it. It's at Christchurch, I think 27th as it starts there, and it goes to Auckland, Wellington. It's online as well, so you can catch it, and there will be a general release hopefully coming up later in the year for this great documentary as well. Mark Graham, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Sam. Well done, mate. Nice to talk to you.